Good morning and welcome back to the Step It Up Entrepreneur Podcast. Your host, Tomas Keenan, coming at you today. And I've got an amazing guest, Miss Scarlette Joyce Rojas, coming up from New Jersey. And before we hit the official record button here on today's episode, we were kind of reminiscing and talking about the areas that she lives in, where her office is, and the areas that she's currently living in. And we kind of briefly spoke about it, but I don't even know how many hours or days in that neck of the woods when I was operating my service-based business out of New York a couple of years back. So with that being said, I welcome you to the show. I'm excited to dive into this because, after we're pretty damn picky over here about who we allow onto the show and who we interview and sit down and spend time with. And one of the things that really stuck out to me, and we talked about this a few minutes ago as well, is yes, you're a financial advisor. Okay. And cool. You're one of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of people who do this across the country, across the globe. But one of the pieces that differentiates you is the simple fact that you're bringing in mindset. You're working with your clients on the mindset around money, as well as the advisory of, hey, this is where we're going to put your investment or what vehicle we're going to use to invest your money in, whatnot. I think that is a really unique take on it, and I love it. So welcome. I want to dive in. I want to know more about this. I want to know how it happened and what got you to where you are today. So please take it from here and tell us a little bit about you.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm super excited to be here with you. And I'm actually really excited to share not only my story, but why I do what I do. So I have been in the banking and investment world for going on, 20 years now. And what got me started really was me watching my dad work, and he used to have two jobs. He was in construction, and he'd come home dusty and dirty, and I never saw him build wealth. And it hurt me. It really bothered me. And I wondered, what the heck is my dad not doing that my friends' parents are doing? Is he doing something wrong? And that in my child mind made me wonder more about money. So I started really learning about money and got into the industry. And I started realizing that when I worked with clients in the big investment firms, I would tell them exactly what to do. But for some reason, they would only do it for a little bit of time. And then they would start getting into the same habits of the past. So even if they inherited 2 million, 3 million, $4 million, that was gone in 2-3 years, and they were back to where they started. So I realized there was a big piece of mindset. It's the subconscious belief system, and all the experiences that you've had in the past are affecting your decisions today. And I see it a lot in money, and it's very obvious in relationships, right? So you see that pattern. And so that's where I started more just niching my practice to help people with that. So now I can help people with the investment strategy, with the financial planning, but also in figuring out what's happening in your mind that's keeping you at this level that you can't break through. It's almost like a glass ceiling you're kind of creating on your own.
Yeah. And you're going back into the old comfortable cycles and habits because they are comfortable.
Yes.
Even if they aren't necessarily the most beneficial for you. And we see that, in several different areas in life. I mean, we see it in the health and fitness industry.
Yeah.
You see it in just small business ownership overall. Like, hey, I'm more comfortable over here sucking wind all day and barely scratching the surface to get by because I'm used to operating over there, and me actually being financially stable and having good cash flow and coming in is like this new strange weird thing, and it scares the crap out of me. So I rather go back where I'm comfortable.
Yes. Yes. And that's called what I call a financial thermostat. That's like
Mm,
your temperature, right? You are set at a certain temperature, and your mind cannot go past that. And when it does, it's like, wait a minute,
yeah.
hold on, what's happening here? I'm more familiar with this. Your brain is just wired that way. It's wired to be comfortable in what is familiar to you. And because of that, you can begin succeeding a little bit more. And then you're like, oh my gosh, what's happening? And you go right back to what you were in the past. And that's why you kind of status quo.
Yeah, I get it. So, all right, cool. We talked briefly before too. A lot of the mindset issues that a lot of your clients face, same as mine too. And I've been through this myself more than I want to admit. It happens to be with something that happened, and doesn't necessarily have to be a bad thing, something that happened in the childhood that is now kind of pre-programmed you to operate this way as a grown adult. What are some of the things that you've seen that stick out to you, and what are some of the solutions or fixes that you help your clients with to overcome the mental hurdles?
So I'll take the example that you gave, right? That entrepreneur that is just consistently working, but it's, still not getting ahead, right? So there's that idea that if you work hard, you make money. That's
Mm,
not a true idea. You can work smart and make money. You could work efficiently and make money. But if you look at, the laborers, perfect example, my dad, he worked really hard, but he never really made
mhm,
money. And so I think that that's one of the things that I see consistently in entrepreneurs and even in people in corporate, right? The other thing I see is things that have happened in the past. For example, let's say you were in a low income a household and you always heard, we can't afford it. Or you said you would hear, no, we can't have that. So now your child, the child in you pretty much remembers not being able to have these things. And then later on in life, you're buying yourself these things to heal that inner child, right?
mm,
But
mm,
now you're buying shit you don't need. And you're buying
yeah.
things and putting yourself into debt for some image, right? That you have to hold out
Mm,
into the world. And so I see
mhm.
that a lot too. So that's just ways that you're trying to heal that inner child, that past child of yours.
Facts. I just got done burning that version of me down, by the way. Because like, listen, I had a successful business, and I'm being very transparent with you and the listeners. You had a very successful business, 7+ figures, 25, almost 30 employees working for me at one point in time.
Mhm.
Wound up leaving, exiting that business in the middle of COVID, moved from New York down here, right? And I came down here to start Step It Up Academy full time because my passion, I found it, I discovered it, was helping others succeed in life and business. Cool. I get down here and there was a coaching mastermind program that I was a member of, a client of, a high paying client. Like I was spending 35, 40 grand a year to be a client over there. And I did well with it, right? It helped me advance, helped me grow as a person, as an individual, as a leader, as a business owner. And I come down here and I don't know, like 2 weeks later, the owner calls me and says, "Hey, I know you're down here. Why don't you come over my house? We'll have a conversation and see, maybe we'll get together and do some work." All right, well, this is an opportunity. Cool. Like, long story short, I wound up going and working for this guy for 2 years, made great money the whole time I was there. But the entire time that I was there, and also prior to this too, right? Because I grew up in the household where it was, no, 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 sorry, we can't afford that yet.
Mhm.
Right. That rings a bell and rings very close to home for me. So
Mhm.
here I am in my early 40s. I'm 44, almost 45 now. So this is not that long ago.
Mhm.
And I'm literally keeping up with the Joneses, right?
Yes.
Got a big old fucking house in Dallas, right? Nice cars in the driveway, right? I've got a beautiful wife I'm married to. I've got 3 kids, got a pool in the backyard. I got a pool across the street in the HOA that we live in. Got all of the nice things.
Mhm.
And like you keep hitting that ceiling.
Mhm.
And I finally got to a point about 18 months ago. I was like, this is fucking insanity, right? And the definition of insanity is you keep doing the same thing over and over and over again, expecting a different result. Okay. We've heard that 1,000 times. So, and this has happened to me a couple of times, and it probably happens to some of the clients that you deal with as well. We realize there's a problem and we have to go to war with ourselves internally to go fix some of these things.
Mhm.
And in doing so, the outside world looks at us like you're out of your fucking mind because you just left a successful business. You left a marriage from the outside that looked perfect and had all these cool, amazing things going on. You sold a house that was almost, it was 869 or something $1,000 you sold a house for, right? Like you sold the house and you moved out, and like everyone's got their own perception of what a good American dream and a successful person looks like. And I'll be the first one to tell you this too. Social media doesn't help.
Mhm.
Right?
Right.
Social media has its pluses, but it also has its minuses, and this is definitely one that falls on the side of the detractor. So, like, what do we do in these situations when we burn everything down and we start the rebuild? So, if you have someone who's coming into you now who is like, "Hey, I'm in this season, like, cool, everything's gone. It's
Mhm.
time for the rebuild, the regrowth." What are you telling your clients who are in these initial stages to rebuild their wealth for long-term gain?
Okay, that's a great question and it's a long answer, but I'm going to try to
Let's
summarize.
go.
So, the number one question I ask, and let's say you, right? I'll just kind of speak directly to you. Who do you want to be?
Sure.
Who do you want to be? That's number one question. And what do
Yeah.
you want, right? So it's basically, what do you want? But I go deeper. I say, who do you want to be? And then once you tell me who you want to be, I'm going to ask you why,
Hmm.
right? So a lot of people, when I say, what do you want? They're like, oh, I want to make $1 million, right? I
It's the
want
most common answer.
exactly, right? I want to be a millionaire, a multi-million. Okay, great. That's great. Why?
Yeah. Why?
And when I really get down to the why, it ends up being something heartfelt, something like, oh, for myself, I'll speak by experience. For myself, it was because I wanted to show my son that it's possible no matter where you come from, right?
Hmm.
Okay, that's heartfelt. That's showing my son. Sometimes when I
Yeah.
speak to people, they're like, oh, it's because I want to do the best for my children. And then they don't realize that they're away, especially entrepreneurs, they're away 7 days a week and they're not spending time with their children, right? Because they're chasing this dream and they think they're doing it for their children, but their children later on, I get to meet with
Yeah.
them when they're in their adult mind and they tell me
And mom or dad were never around.
exactly, exactly.
Yeah.
They thought their business was more important than I was. That's not the case. Your mom was actually, or your
Hmm.
dad was actually working their ass off to try to create this business to show you what's possible and to leave it to you, right? Totally different ways of doing things. So that's
Hmm.
question number one. Become crystal clear on who you want to be and why you want to be it. And then you work down from there, right? Then what do I need to do to be that person and to create that type of lifestyle? Number two would
Hmm.
be knowing your numbers, like knowing your numbers, so like if I asked you, what do you make, yes, give me the gross, give me the net, give me what your tax bracket is, give me what you're spending money on, give me
Hmm.
all of that information. How much are you saving? How much are you investing? Talk to me about your business, but also talk to me about your personal, because a lot of business owners make that big mistake is that they combine their personal and their business numbers. No, you need to know your business numbers. You need to know your personal numbers because you cannot bring them together. Then you're going
Yeah.
to go bankrupt versus your LLC
Hmm.
or your S Corp going bankrupt. Do you know what I mean? So
Yeah.
that would be step two, is knowing your
Hmm.
numbers. And that way I can see, all right, what do we have to do with these numbers to get to where you want to go, right? That's two.
Hmm.
Then the third level will be the strategy, right? What are we going to do? Where are we going to invest? Where's your money going to go? Where's your money going to stop going, right? And because your money needs a roadmap. Fourth thing is going to be, while I work with clients, what I do is I look at the mindset piece of it. Okay, I see
Hmm.
this, I see this, I see this, and we got to work on this stuff. So, what belief systems could be holding you back, but what belief systems could propel you forward? And how do we use how you're already wired to make you successful? It's four
Yeah.
steps.
Yep. I love it. You broke it down pretty simplistically, which I think is awesome. And there's a lot to it for sure. Going into this is one of the big pain points I see with a lot of clients that I serve in the small business side. And you nailed it. It's the commingling of the business and the personal funds, right? And it's real easy to do, and it's a real pain in the ass to fix it once you start it too.
Yeah.
And you know, I'm sure you have people that you send clients to, or you say, hey, this is a great introduction. Your books are a mess. You don't know your numbers. But for those listening who are in the small business realm, right? And shit, even if you're not even in the personal side, you have to have your numbers in order. Right.
Yes.
So one of the things that I'm adamant about is, I love your coffee cup, by the way. It's awesome.
Thank you.
You've got to have really solid bookkeeping in place. It's like step 101 in business. Like you have to know your book, they have to be accurate. And
Yeah.
as you start getting more advanced, and this too, okay, cool. You're a self-employed person. You want to go and you want to get a mortgage for your house. That's a fun road to go down when you can't show
Yes.
enough on your W-2 to say that you own the house. Meanwhile, your business is producing 8+ figures a year,
Yes.
right? So you
You
have
hit
to have your books in order
that
so you
nail
can
right on the
produce
head.
these accurate reports.
Yep.
Yeah.
You hit that right on the head. And then that's a big mistake that entrepreneurs make, is commingling those funds. The other thing is also, you want to look at it from that perspective, right? Where now the personal side of you, so you saved money on the business side, but now the personal side of you wants to buy a house, and they're
Yeah.
like, dude, you're poor. So why am I gonna give you a mortgage? The other thing is also treating yourself like an employee, where a lot of a lot of entrepreneurs, what they do is like, uh-oh, okay, my business needs money. I'm going to take money from the personal savings. No, you wouldn't do that to your employee, would you? You wouldn't say,
Nope.
hey, I know that you have $50,000 saved over here. Can I borrow that for my business? So treat yourself like an employee. Same thing with credit. Any type of credit needs to be separate. You need to have a personal credit card and you need to have a business credit card. And the business stuff needs to go on that business credit card. And yes, I understand when you go out, dinners and stuff like that. Yeah, put it on the business card because it could be a write-off, but then you have to
Sure.
keep those books super clean, because if the IRS comes and checks you out, you don't want that mess. The other thing is a
Yep.
business line of credit. Every entrepreneur should have a business line of credit.
Yeah, I agree. It's funny you talk about that. And unfortunately, I have experienced just being in some bad financial situations over the course of my career. When you need money, no one is willing to give it to you. And
Exactly.
when you don't need money, they're all sending you the letters in the mail and knocking on your door, offering you money at dumb rates. And it's like, well, I don't need it right now. That's the
Exactly.
time, in my opinion, where you accept the offer, even if you have the line of credit and it just sits there and you pull from it every so often just to keep the account open.
Yes,
Yeah.
100%. I was in banking. That's how I'd be able to sell my business clients on a line of credit, because they'd say, hey, I really don't need it right now. I'm like, and that's exactly why you
Yeah.
want it. Because when you do truly need it, no one's going to want to give it to you.
Mhm. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Love it. So on the more advanced side of things, let's say you're more into that stage 3, stage 4 with your clients. What do you look at, from investment purposes? Like what's going on right now that's working well? What are some areas that you won't even go anywhere near with your clients' money when it comes to investments? Like, give me the inside scoop on what you think is the real deal these days.
The real deal. Oh, gosh, you know what's so funny? I saw this meme that said, if a dragon flew right above my head, I'd be surprised, but not
Mm.
really surprised, right? We've seen so much. We've
Uh,
seen so much happen in the last maybe 3, 4 years, and I don't think that it's completely over. I think that
mhm,
inflation is not going to go away as fast as people think that it's going to go away. So so the the stock market and investing right now is a little tricky. So what I would say is, please, for the love of God, stay away from meme stocks. And
mhm,
that's number one. Number two, there really is no magical stock. Okay. Yes, there are the Nvidias of the world, the Apples of the world, but the potential of you choosing the magical stock is actually quite small. So the best thing for
mhm,
you to do is stick to index funds. That's the best thing.
mhm,
Do not get creative. Stick to index funds. The other thing that is working right now is high yield money market accounts, right? Because they're paying 4.5%. CDs are paying 5.5%. 5 years ago, no one wanted a CD, but now you can actually have money sitting and then just making 5.5% for the next year or so. So if you have any money that you don't want in the stock market, look into money market accounts, and then CDs that are a year and a half. There's so many different options. If you're ready
Sure.
to invest, you want to stick to index funds and not choosing like just stocks. And then, of course, if you have an advisor, they always have options of managed accounts where they will have a money manager choosing the stock for you versus you choosing your own stock, because you're busy running a business. What the hell are you going to be doing checking on a stock the whole damn day?
Yeah.
Just let the
Yeah.
pros do it.
Yeah. Same deal. Hey, you're going to call someone in to build a deck on your home. Like, could you
Yeah.
do it? Yeah, you probably could. It's going to take you 10 years to get it finished from start to complete.
Yeah.
Call the pro in and let them do it in 2 or 3 weeks. Right.
That's exactly
Same thing
it.
applies, in my opinion, with investments and whatnot. People who are money managers like yourself, financial advisors, like you guys have gone through, you're educated, you're trained, you've been doing this for years, you have real world experience. So
Mhm.
you're going to help avoid some of the pitfalls that a novice, like say me, if I want to go and drop some money into the stock market, cool, I could open up an E-Trade account and drop money in there. But what happens? How do I monitor this? When do I make the changes? And look, there's always going to be that small facet of people in any industry that are going to be the full-blown nerds. They're going to be the do-it-yourselfers who dive in deep and learn it and do well with it. Right.
Mhm.
But for the most part, I think that's not the way to go for, let's just call it, the average person who's moving through life these days.
It's not. And the other thing is the crypto world, right? Because a lot of people ask about that. It's like, oh, should I be invested in crypto? Should I be? Okay.
Mhm.
That
Give me
that
some bored apes.
Yeah, I know. That is moving in the right direction, right?
Yeah.
Right now, it's still kind of like the wild, wild west, and you don't
Mhm.
want to get caught in that. There's probably maybe one or two that I would say, okay, it seems like it's good to go. But all these other
Yeah.
little ones that are coming up, you just don't know what the hell's going to happen to that. And it's your
Mhm.
hard-earned money, so be cautious when investing in that world. And then the other piece that is really super important that people miss is that it's really not the investment choice that makes you wealthy. It is the planning and the strategy around it. It is the
Mhm.
continuous habit around it. It's the same way you build your business, right? It's not built overnight. It's
No.
consistency and discipline. And it's the same
Mhm.
exact thing in building wealth. That's the way you build wealth. It doesn't happen overnight. And there's no magical bullet. It's just, hey, consistency, discipline,
Yeah.
showing.
Yeah. It's showing up with consistency. And, it applies in so many areas. I've seen that in the financial side of the house. I've seen that in small business. And for me, I also see it, on the fitness side of the house with just working out. Right. And I went, uh, quick story here. My first daughter was born, I was 35. This is back in 2015.
Mhm.
Um, and right around that time, it lit a fire under my ass, something fierce. It was like, hey, you've been a fat, lazy guy who sits around and drinks beer and eats Oreos all day long. You got to change the way you're doing some things. You have no structure in your life. Yes, you have a pretty successful business and you're married and you got the house and all the crap, but there's got to be a change here. And I got really tired of feeling uncomfortable in my own skin.
Yeah.
I was to the point where I would bend over and tie my shoelaces and I was out of breath. And I was
Yikes.
like, this can't be. Like, I'm 35. Like, what
Yeah.
happens when I'm 45 or 55? Like,
No,
no good.
exactly.
So, yeah, made those changes. And, it's funny. I met someone, this is probably 6 months ago. I was at my buddy's gym in the morning and one of his clients is in there and it's, like a semi-personal training client of his. Guy looks over and like I'm not in like amazing shape, I don't think. And the guy's like, "Hey, how long until I look like that guy?" And I was like, "Who, me?" And
Oh,
one of the trainers calls me over and he goes, "Hey, Tom, how long have you been working out?" And I was thinking about it and I'm scratching my head, literally scratching my head. And I'm like, And I was going to say like 3 years. And then it hit me. I was like, holy shit, it hasn't been 3 years, it's been more like 7 years, more like 8 years,
Wow,
right?
yeah.
It's been a long time at this point, right? So I had to answer him and be real. I was like, hey man, like I worked out for the first 2 years and showed up a minimum of 3 days a week, and I didn't see a single change in the mirror or the
Exactly.
scale for 2 fucking years.
Yes.
Right. So the same thing is going to apply to the growth and the scaling of your small business. The same thing is going to apply to your personal wealth and your wealth management and your whole financial situation overall. Like you cannot expect to see these massive instant wins and changes. If
Yes.
that's what you're looking for, go play the lottery and good luck to you.
Exactly. Go to the casino or something. Exactly, right? And
Yeah.
that's the other thing, right? It's a lot of people expect like financial advisors to know, oh, so what's going to happen in the stock market? Beats the hell out of me. I don't know what the hell's going to happen in the stock market. And what's like the next big thing? I don't freaking
Yeah.
know what the next big thing is. Like no one really knows that. And that's why
Yeah.
it does come down to consistency, consistently investing on an automatic basis, right? Not
Yep.
you choosing, because if you do it when you choose, you're just going to leave it to emotion. That's not going to
Mm.
work, right? So
Yeah.
it's those habits, it's the daily habits that you have.
Hmm. Yeah. So you mentioned automatic there, right?
Mhm,
And I like automation, just
mhm.
do. It's part of what I do inside business operations, and I help a lot of clients with that kind of stuff too. Um, what do you recommend for some kind of automated way to move a client's money from, hey, this money's in the personal checking account or even the business account? How do we automate that money over to, let's say, your team, the financial advisors, to go and deploy that money or invest that money so it then grows and grows and grows? Like, what does that look like, and how would you recommend someone does that?
Super, super easy. So the first step is going to be how much can you put away? And I help my clients
Mhm.
look at their numbers so that I challenge them, right? Because when I say, hey, how much can you put away? They're like, oh, probably maybe 500. It's like, well, let's go. Let's look at your numbers, right? Let's look at where your money is really going. And do you want it to go to
Yeah.
the Amazons of the world? Do you want it to go to the Apples of the world? Because then you're making them the multi-millionaires and billionaires,
Mhm.
and you get stuck in middle class, and then your kids get stuck in middle class. So why don't we
Mhm.
grow your wealth and stop buying
Yeah.
shit you don't need, and take that money and put it into your investment account? And then we just create an ACH at a certain
Mhm.
date. So choose the amount, then choose the exact date. And I usually like to go with if you're paid on the 15th and the 30th, let's say your business has a payroll, and so you're
Yeah.
paying the 15th and the 30th, then that's when you're going to do it. You're going to do it on the 15th and you're going to do it on the 30th. You're going to do maybe 500, 500, or 1,000, 1,000. And then you get it into the brokerage account, and the brokerage account will, the advisor sets it up to automatically
Mhm.
invest. Or if you're
Yeah.
self-directed, if you're investing yourself, you could just set it up to purchase in index fund or something automatically on the
Mhm.
15th and the 30th.
Yep. Very cool. I like it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So you mentioned self-directed.
Mm-hmm.
Let's talk self-directed for a minute. Is that anything that you work with or help clients with, setting up self-directed accounts? Or is it more like, hey, if someone's coming to work with you, like, no, 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 we're gonna invest this for you. That's the only way.
Yes, yes. No, actually, I used to work with the big companies of the world. So one of them, the last one was
Mhm.
JP Morgan. And
Mhm.
pretty much like to work with me, you needed to have at least $250,000, right? We didn't really want to talk to
Mhm.
you if you didn't have money. And we wanted to
Sure.
invest it. When I started my own firm, I knew that that was one
Mhm.
of the things that I wanted to change. And so now entrepreneurs, people can come to me and they can say, hey, I want to invest my own money, but I do need the strategy and the financial plan. And so you can do it
Mhm.
that way. So someone can
Got it.
say, hey, I'll pay this amount, right? And I tell you how much based on what's happening in your life. And
Yeah.
I give them the financial plan. I don't care where you're invested. My job
Mhm.
is to make sure I'm giving you a roadmap to where you want to go.
Yeah. Got it. Very cool. All right. So you came out of the corporate space. You have your own firm at this point.
Mhm.
From a regulation or a licensing perspective, what does that look like? Are there any differences, or you still have to hold the same licenses and have the same basic, fiduciary responsibilities for your clients? Tell me and tell the listeners a bit about that if you could.
So the biggest difference is that I am a fiduciary for clients now. When you work for a bigger firm, the bigger firm really controls a lot. So they basically say, hey, you know what, we want you to move. They market their products more, right? So
Yeah.
they'll say, hey, this is the managed account and this is why it's wonderful. And you can sell it this way. And so then the advisors are all kind of like little minions moving them towards that account because it makes money for the firm, right? But
Mhm.
now, as a fiduciary, I can say, okay, I can sell you a JP Morgan fund, BlackRock, Goldman Sachs, doesn't matter because I'm on your side now. It's
Mhm.
different. So there is a
Yeah.
difference in working with an
Yeah.
advisor that's independent.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. It's like, hey, the advisor's there looking out for the best interest of the client versus, corporate breathing down your neck saying, hey, not the client first. We need to make money first. And we're telling you which products to go push this week, this month, or whatever, this quarter, this year.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And there's a lot in the investment world that people don't see. Like, you only see the outside. You don't see the inner workings of it, right? Unless you've been in it like I have. But I
Yeah.
want to bring up one other error that I see entrepreneurs make,
Let's
and
go.
that is taxes.
Hmm.
So when they do their taxes, they're under the impression that their accountant is there to save them money or make them money, and they're actually not. The accountant only does your taxes, and they are so overwhelmed during that time frame that they're not thinking about, oh, how am I going to save them money? Should they open a SEP IRA? Should they open a solo? So it's
Yeah.
just so that is a big mistake entrepreneurs make. So my advice to you is to make sure that you have a tax planning strategy prior to
Yeah.
tax time, because your
Yeah.
accountant's going to be way too overwhelmed to really help you during that time.
Mhm.
They're not there to save you money. They're there to keep you safe from the IRS, which is extremely important as an entrepreneur.
Mhm.
So a financial advisor can help you, and they'll look at everything, right? And the accountant. So both of them, you need
Yeah.
both in your corner to be able to say, okay,
Mhm.
how do I strategize to save me money? Deductions, but
Yeah.
also putting money away in certain
Mhm.
vehicles that will help in the long term.
Yeah. So I agree with you 100%. And what you're saying here overall is, I'm going to streamline this a bit more and add to it. The advice that you're giving here is to ensure that you build a team around you that supports you and helps you attain the goals that you're after.
Yeah.
So, speaking from a team perspective, if you had a small business owner that's doing pretty well, getting pretty successful, making a couple of bucks, has a house and a couple of cars kind of deal, but is looking to really build that wealth, long-term wealth, and so on, prosperity, the whole nine yards, what do you advise them? Who are the team members that they should surround themselves with in order to do really well? So obviously you've got your wealth advisor, which is you and your team. You've got your CPA, right? Who else is on that team that and the person, the entrepreneur is going to need in order to garner the success?
So I call them the 5 to thrive. Okay. So it's
Okay.
the financial advisor, the accountant, a good lawyer, right? An
Mhm.
executive business coach of some sort, right? You need someone, a
Yep.
mentor, right? And then a mastermind. So I do think every entrepreneur needs a mastermind, because you will go through times of utter joy and you will go through hell. And you
Yep.
need that mastermind to help you go through these times, but also 5 or 6 brains work better than just one. So that's what the mastermind
Mhm.
is there to do for you.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%. There's definitely some solid advice there. And yeah, it may look a little different for each person, but
Yeah.
there comes a point in time, I think, in people's lives where, yeah, you need help on the financial side of the house. You're damn sure going to need an attorney, because in small business, if you haven't been sued yet, trust me, you will be at some point in time.
Oh gosh.
Right. Um,
Don't say that.
yeah. Uh, I got stories for days on that one. The other one I think that you missed out that I would add to the list is someone on the insurance side of the house to make sure that you're
Ooh, yeah.
protected really well.
Yep.
Right.
I like
So
that.
like, if you find a good attorney, they're going to be generalist, let's call it. They'll be able to help in multiple different areas. But they'll start to help with entity formation to help protect you with taxes, help you asset liability, that kind of stuff. But the insurance is going to pair really well with the attorney and tax liability as well as asset protection, some of the things that they can set up for you and whatnot. So
I agree. I agree.
Yeah. I mean, it's like one of the things, for instance, go get a damn umbrella policy from an insurance agent, right? It's not a lot of money, and it's going to cover so much more.
You're right.
Yeah.
It isn't. When I looked into that, I'm like, oh gosh, how much is this going to cost me? It's not expensive at all. So definitely.
It's a couple $100 and you're done for the year.
Yep.
Yeah.
Great idea.
Love it. Yeah. All right. This has been awesome. Scarlette, thank you so much for coming in today. I think we had a great conversation. Some of the information and knowledge you shared, I am totally with it. I'm aligned. Picked up on a couple of things myself, which I is one of the reasons I do this. Is not only do I enjoy meeting people and having good conversation, but it also helps me. So with that being said, what's the best place that we can go to find you? And possibly if someone's a listener and wants to connect with you and have a conversation about using you and your firm's services, where do we go? How do we find you?
So my website, moneymindsetadvisors.com. You can find me there. You can also follow me on Instagram, Money Mindset Mommy. That's my handle. And if you need more, and I put so much content out there, like free content, but if you need more help, then reach out to my team and then I'll be happy to give at least, let's say 10, because I don't want hundreds of people calling in, but 10 of your listeners, the first ones to come and request it, a 20-minute, just a deep dive. And it's a risk assessment for entrepreneurs. And I can tell within 20 minutes what risk you have in your business, what holes you have in your financial planning, and where you can save money for your business. So I'll be happy to do that for you.
Awesome. Thank you so much for coming in today. I truly enjoyed the conversation.
Of course. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for tuning in to the Step It Up Entrepreneur Podcast. Make sure you head over to stepitupentrepreneur.com and make sure you subscribe so you never miss an episode of the Step It Up Entrepreneur Podcast.